Welcome to the Spawn Chunks, episode number 27 for Monday, February 18th, 2019. My name is Johnny, but the foxes at the bottom of my garden probably know me as Pixel Riffs, and joining me, as always, is Joel Duggan. Hey, Joel.
Hello, sir. It is halfway through February already. What the crap?
Yeah, my brain is slightly melting at the thought of how fast this year has already progressed, but that means we've got 6 or more episodes of the Spawn Chunks under our belt, which is a very exciting thing.
Yes. We're quickly approaching episode 30, which is exciting.
Yes, yeah, and beyond that, episode 32, the half stack, the milestone we all wait for.
We have to speak in Minecraft terms.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Must work in multiples of 8 and that kind of thing. So let's speak more about these Minecraft terms. What have you been up to in Minecraft this week?
So I worked very hard last week. For people that are in our Discord and even on Twitter and stuff like that, you might have noticed my absence. And that was because I was at a conference, so I didn't get to really touch base and play at all during the week. But I also accomplished enough professionally that I was like, I'm taking the weekend to do whatever I want.
Oh, I love those weekends.
Yes.
Yes.
And it was great. I may have played a little bit too much Minecraft because on top of streaming for a few hours both Saturday and Sunday, I also played off stream. So because again, it was like there's nothing going on. I have no friends in town that wanted to go out. Like, I mean, it was just a very quiet weekend. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people had either gone out on Valentine's Day or were going out on the weekend. With
for sure,
their,
yeah.
You
feel those purse strings tighten after you've had a nice dinner date or something.
Yeah. Well, or people avoided the price gouge on the 14th and waited until the 18th and or the 16th or something like that and went out on a Saturday. So I was streaming and I decided to not approach the stream like making an episode on Saturday, which is what I tend to do. I try to kill two birds with one stone. I try to create my YouTube episodes out of my streams. And I just decided to have a super chill stream because I knew I was going to be doing a lot of counting. We decided on the server to put a spawn-proofing ring around the already decent gold farm that we have in the nether. So not on top of the nether. I dealt with that question many times during the stream.
I'm sure, yeah.
But we have it in the middle of a huge lava lake. Like, not just the lava lake, but it is massive. So out of the 128 block radius that you need to clear for a spawn ring around the farm, or around the player, excuse me, I want to say about half of that is already just lava.
Yeah.
If not more. So we were talking about it, and Matt Cast on the server said, hey, why don't we slab this and try to increase the rates? And really, it's less about the rates and more about maintaining the aggro chain.
Yeah.
Some of the changes that happened with 1.13 made the farm less efficient, and for us, it means less AFKable. It's one of the few XP farms where you can just kind of sit there and the zombie pigmen will pile into the minecarts, get entity crammed, and you're good. However, when that aggro chain breaks, you then have to return to the computer to, anger one again. Mm-hmm. So I decided to spend Saturday building this giant ring around the entire lava lake. And so you got, there's points where you're hovering over lava, pucker moments where you're doing like one block bridges with slabs at angles and all that kind of stuff. Ghasts are spawning like every 5 seconds, and you're just like, run away. And so it was a fun, entertaining stream because I wasn't constantly trying to do like content for YouTube. It was just chill, hanging out with folks. Had a lot of really cool people in the chat, and only made one very small mistake over the course of like a dozen blocks in that entire ring. Mm-hmm. So I was very happy about that.
Very good.
It was a lot of fun. Good. Didn't even die once. I did have noob juice. I had fire resist potions on my hotbar just in case.
Yeah.
Just
if you're working over a lava lake of that size, especially, like, there is no shame in having some fire resistance. It's almost mandatory. A ghast fireballs you don't want to lose all of your elytra and mending gear and everything. Like, it makes perfect sense. Even pro Minecraft players at this point are probably doing that.
Yeah. Fast forward to the next day, when I'm back in the nether and decided that I wanted to continue with the project because I had so much fun on stream, decided that I was going to approach it a little bit more like an episode. And so Alistair was on stream, and not on mic with me, but he was on stream, and he was running gas duty. So he was shooting the gas, and I was moving the road that approaches the gold farm and creating a little bit more of a reveal as you approach it, as opposed to just the industrial cobblestone path that we had. So I was designing the path of it and coming into the circle at an angle, and rather than this weird straight kind of intersection. It's easier to see on camera. But I was there and I was swooping around and doing all kinds of stuff, and we were shooting ghast and having fun. And every time a ghast appeared, it was great because you'd have like both Alistair, Mattcast, and myself, like all three of us, just firing these flaming arrows at this ghast. So it really looked like the ghast was being bombarded from the ground.
Nice.
Which is really fun. Until I threw an ender pearl at one by mistake.
Oh no! Oh, that's not a projectile you want to be throwing at a ghast, my friend.
No. So true to form, without a fire resist potion on my hotbar or in my inventory, I was just like, I saw it go. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, I love those moments where you can see your own death coming, and you're just like, well, there's nothing I can do about this. This is the end of me.
Yeah. And I was smart enough to throw a second ender pearl. Unfortunately, I was a little trigger happy, and rather than throwing it at the top of the gold farm, which is all glass, which is what I should have done, I threw it to the left, which was land side, and it hit before my first pearl hit the lava.
Oh no! Oh, so the timing was off.
The timing was off. Because had the second pearl landed on top of the gold farm, or had it landed second, I would have been okay. Like I would have been on fire, and I would have taken some serious damage. But even if I had died, my stuff just would have been on the shore of the lava lake next to Alistair.
Yeah.
Maybe lost a couple things in a fire, depending on where that pearl landed, but nothing drastic. But I lost the whole kit, everything. And live on camera, first 10 minutes of the stream, just like, well, okay then.
Yeah, well, like I know what we're doing for the rest of today. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
well, actually, this is the thing. Like the server's been up for almost 2 years, so I have backup gear. I didn't have a backup elytra. We had to go get that after, but I had backup gear, and I didn't need elytra for the stream because I'm in the Nether, and I thought, well, I don't want to lose them again, and people on stream are going to be bored with me trading with villagers and getting mending and stuff back on my gear. So I just grabbed the backup gear. I was like, this will be fine. I won't be able to get around without using ender pearls, but that's fine. So I did the rest of the stream without main gear, and it was just fine. It helps so much to have backup gear. There's nothing more frustrating than sitting down to play Minecraft, losing all your stuff, and realizing you have to go get your stuff back because you have nothing.
Yeah,
it's really, really frustrating. So I always have backup gear, which is good. But that's my story. I had a lot of fun. I wanted to thank you for the raid there yesterday on stream. I had a lot of great folks, really cool folks that came into the stream. Really fun people to talk to. So hi to all those folks, and really appreciate the conversation that was happening in the chat yesterday. It was a lot of fun. What about you? Like, what have you been doing in Minecraft this week?
I actually have a similar story, but one in another dimension. In fact, two separate dimensions, completely different to the Nether. I had fun experiences building the Guardian Farm. The Guardian Farm went very well. First of all, the build process of it went well. I didn't die at all during the construction of it, which I'm pretty happy about, considering that when Carbon Iskall first built this farm on the Hermitcraft server, they died probably about 100 times collectively between the two of them. But I was very proud up until this point of the fact that the only time I had died in the Minecraft Survival Guide world was intentional. I jumped off into the void after raiding the end, after putting all of my stuff in an ender chest, and that was the one death that I had. And I was braggy about this, which ultimately led to my downfall. Because, I did the Guardian Farm. Those 2 episodes went out, and it was great. And then I was just hanging out, like, waiting for some Guardians to pile up in the area so I could kill them. And I don't know what it was. Like, I hadn't eaten enough. I took a couple of swings at them with the Thorns effect damaging me. And then a few of them just lasered me at a point where I couldn't, like, hit them back. And I took my second death to Guardians. So that was death number 2. So that happened, but since then I have been I was working on this on stream the other day on the appearance of the kind of drop chamber for the Guardians. So I have a storage system in there now. I have a water elevator to take me back up to the surface. There's like a little temple on the surface now that you can just kind of drop down into, and then there's dispensers that trigger all the way up to form a water column to get you out. Mainly because I didn't want to use one of those magma block swappers, because I find the magma block thing kind of unnecessary. The block swapper itself is simple, but magma blocks kind of annoy me with the pulling you down thing. They don't work particularly fast. A safe fall into a water block at the bottom is much better. So I kind of went with that.
You can swim down a regular water column faster than a magma block will pull you.
So the fact that people like those kind of shifting bubble columns, I just go, no, I'll form a soul sand bubble column when I want it. The rest of the time it can be like tidied away in dispensers. Made it way more complicated in terms of the redstone, and I think a few people got a little bit frustrated in my stream the other day because I'm not all that good at coming up with redstone stuff on the fly, and this needed very specific timing so that all of the dispensers activated a second time to retract the water after I got to the surface. But I got that done on stream the other day, and that was great. The episode that went out today almost caused my third death of the series because I was doing the trick where you trap the wither in bedrock as part of the Minecraft survival guide to kind of teach Java players how to do that in case, you don't feel like fighting the wither. You fought the wither enough times to prove that you can beat it yourself. You just want a quick kill. Everybody does this, like we were saying before. Professional Minecrafters do this at this point. They're just like, I want a beacon. I don't want the hassle of having to fight the wither with all of the potions and the chances of dying and everything. So the first time I spawned the wither under the bedrock portal, I spawned it in the wrong place and it got out. And so that was heart in my mouth kind of moment. And I think I handled it on the video very well. Luckily, I had elytra and enough fireworks that I could then fight the wither from the air in the end, and it was too busy fighting the Enderman most of the time to really care. Let me tell you, once you get the wither down to half health and it enters that second phase where it can't really fly all that much, it just kind of drifts around on the surface, the Enderman take that guy down real well. Like, it's a surprise, but Enderman kind of dealing damage to it, they get killed all the time, but they just keep respawning, so they keep coming back to fight the wither, and it aggroes them very easily, and because it's just fireballing them all with skulls constantly. So the Enderman almost stole the kill from me, which was a real surprise. Say,
because if they kill it, do you not get the drop?
I think it drops a nether star regardless. I think whatever kills it, you still get the star to drop, because I think I've killed it with commands, which don't normally drop the drops in like a creative test world, and it still drops the nether star. So I think it's 100% chance, but even so, I was like, I still want to have killed the wither, for my own like statistics screen or something, if nothing else. But yeah, eventually I caught up to it and I managed to deliver the final blow. Went to get 3 more wither skulls, which I don't have a farm for, so it still took me another, 45 minutes to an hour to get the remaining skulls. Did it right the second time for the video, but then it made the video, I think, more entertaining. And that one's gone out today. So if anybody who has not seen that already wants to go and check that out, I would appreciate it, because it was one of those panic moments. And afterwards, I added in a bit for the video that was like, okay, I'm about to make a very bad mistake. Do not copy what I'm doing exactly. Watch till the end of the video to see how to do it right, and then laugh at me. And
nice.
and no, but it's gone super well, and I was pretty happy that I didn't end up dying as a result of that fight, because it could have gone south very quickly.
I still remember the Harmony series where you and Python took on the wither, and it got out, into the wide open overworld, and you guys were fighting it on a hillside, and it was just owning face. Like, you guys were toasted. It was really
the wither
it was so funny to watch.
On the surface, it's really difficult to fight. Like the previous fight I'd done for this series, I did it at the bottom of the world in a cave somewhere where it's just going to have to break through stone if it goes any further upwards, and I was able to take it out no problem. But when you get it on the surface, it hovers above you and then doesn't like leave that position all that much, and firing up at it while it's shooting skulls at you is really difficult. So
because they explode, like they have an area of effect when they land. Like
exactly,
yeah, it's like a ghast with a Gatling gun. Like
basically,
it's really, really difficult to fight.
That's a movie I would watch.
Yes, yeah. Especially if the ghasts have like an Austrian accent, like an old Schwarzenegger action film.
Absolutely.
That would be hilarious.
Yes,
I've watched your Guardian farm, the start of the construction, and then I think the adding of the killing chamber. I don't think I've seen the follow up.
Yes,
those are really well done. I really enjoyed, even though I know how to make that farm. I really enjoyed like watching you put it together, because everybody always has like a slightly different take on how they're going to approach that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and everybody in the comments has a slightly different take on it as well, it turns out. Because I had a ton of people saying, why didn't you build this type of Guardian farm or that type of Guardian farm? And to be honest, if we're talking about this series being for people who are new to Minecraft, this project totally looks like overkill, and it is. But I feel like I acknowledged that enough in the video, and I just went, you know what? I want to have a Guardian farm that will last me for the rest of my life, effectively. Yeah. And that's what I've got right now. And those soul sand ones, they're so straightforward. They're very easy to understand, and they are so much simpler to set up than the old sand perimeter, clear out the entire thing, drain it entirely of water, and then build something in the middle. It took maybe half the time, probably even less time than it would have taken to fill the entire thing and like clear it all out with sand or sponges or anything like that. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend those Soul Sand designs if they work for you on your platform, because I understand sometimes they don't on console or Bedrock or whatever. But no, it's a great system and it works super well.
Yeah, no, it's also really fun to watch too. It's just an awful lot of Guardians all being funneled into one spot.
Like I named the second video "The Payoff" for a reason, because it does feel like a payoff. You're like, finally, all of these guys under my control at last.
Yeah, quick question before we get into the news. With the spawning rates of the Guardian and the distance, is there a specific distance that you have to move the Guardians out of the Ocean Monument box?
I think
do you have to get them out of a certain area?
It's nothing to do with the mob cap. I think it's like it would be with a mob spawner cage. I think it's just to do with your distance from the monument itself. And I think eventually, like, yeah, you would probably hit a hard limit of how many Guardians the game wants to spawn in there. But I think, yeah, like if you get them like 24 blocks away from you, then they're going to keep spawning and they're just going to keep getting funneled into the area.
Right, so it's kill them quickly, not necessarily move them a certain distance.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it comes down to.
Because one of the things that I was thinking about, I've got a couple of spots on the Citadel where I can potentially have double Guardian farms. And I was thinking that it would be great to have that build as somewhere near where I decide to design a sci-fi zone. Because sea lanterns and stuff like that would be, handy to have nearby. And I mean, despite the fact we already have a Guardian farm, I just thought, building a double Guardian farm would have a very unique challenge. But instead of sending the Guardians down into a killing chamber, I was thinking like, well, if we need to remove them from the spawning zone ASAP, I thought another bubble column sending them up as high as like super high in the sky would be super, super cool too.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether we had to move them a certain distance horizontally or whether just getting them out of the spawning zone vertically.
I think I didn't explain that super well. So I think to clarify, there is a limit on the amount of Guardians it will spawn, but getting them out of that space doesn't mean they spawn more just because they're out of the area. Like all the Guardians that are in the world count towards the maximum number of Guardians. So you couldn't just like remove them from the area of the monument and then the monument would check for Guardians and think, oh, there's none within this area, I'll spawn some more. So you
have to kill them.
Yeah, as you said, it is about killing them quickly.
Okay.
I just know we're going to get emails about that if I don't clarify.
Oh, no, of course. No, and that's why I asked. I mean, as much as I do know about the game and have learned about the game, there's always something that I either don't remember correctly or it applies to a mob differently than other mobs. And, like you read about a squid farm after you read about a Guardian farm, and then that information kind of meshes in your brain. It's like, well, which goes to which and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, moving on into the news, we have quite a few things to talk about this week. We have the new snapshot. Minecraft Snapshot 19W07A is out. There are foxes in the game. The narrator is now available in the menus. Paintings are broken up into individual textures, which we speculated about last week. And there are some bug fixes. One of them, to make a note, is that Drowned will now throw tridents the correct way, whereas previously they were throwing them backwards, and I thought that was a funny note. And there's also a couple of really cool things on the Minecraft.net page. There was A Nation Crafted was an article that was submitted to us by Cosmic Dancer. She's an Ore Producer member in our Spawn Chunks Discord. And we've also got Forge released for Minecraft 1.13.2, or I think either released or pending release. Minecraft has earned $110 million on mobile in 2018, and we even have a little bit of texture news to talk about. So where do you want to start, man? Do you want to start with the foxes, or do you want to end with the foxes?
Let's end with the foxes, because I feel like the foxes are the big thing, but there's a couple of other bits I want to get to. For a start, the Forge thing, I'm pretty sure is a beta, but people are still, immediately getting in there. Mod authors are very keen to update to the latest version.
Right.
Everyone's basically been waiting on Forge to come out for the longest time. So even though Lex Manos is still working on developing the full release of Forge 1.13.2, it seems like people are already hammering it pretty hard. So
having
good on
access
you guys.
Having access to the way that it's coded probably allows mod authors to at least start. Get in there and begin going.
Yeah, you can see what the differences are, and I feel like a couple of people have already got mods out there that are probably small scale. They're not like big content mods or anything, but they are, I think, already compatible with this Forge beta. So the work ethic in the modding community is always impressive to me.
Yes, no, I agree, and that's at minecraftforge.net. The reason why I was curious and wanted to ask about it is because I know very little about modding, but also that the default when you go to minecraftforge.net is still 1.12. Like the page 1.13.2 is available as a link at the top, but it doesn't default there. So I wasn't, and there's no documentation that's clear, or not documentation, but there's no real post titles, you know, UI information on the website to indicate this is the new beta.
Sure, I think
Download it here.
It's much like with Optifine, where he'll put experimental versions and the kind of like the preview versions of it are kind of behind another link, so you have to knowingly click through to that to accept that this is still a beta. Things might be buggy before the full release comes out. Yeah.
Speaking of, the new Optifine came out too. That was out on February 14th. So if you have not updated recently, folks, if you are using Optifine, then you can go check out the changes at optifine.net as well. Another quick one we can knock out is the Minecraft earnings for mobile in 2018. We talk a lot about Java on the show because both Pixel Riffs and I play it. But I think it is absolutely worth noting that Minecraft has earned 110 million on just the mobile version. In 2018, which is up like 7%, I think they said in the article. From 2017, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's again testament to the ongoing development of Minecraft, the fact that it's not really a finished game, quote unquote, yet. The fact that they keep producing free updates to it is still driving players to the game. And I think this update in particular has been a very positive one in terms of player feedback and in terms of regaining interest for people who have lapsed from playing Minecraft. So it's been really great to see people coming back to the community. The community feels stronger than ever on YouTube and Twitch as well, and I've been following a couple of the Mojang community managers and Microsoft's community managers who work on Minecraft specifically, and they've always got positive news to report about like Minecraft's player base and the kind of online interest in Minecraft still growing after all this time.
Yeah. Worth noting that the entry fee is $6.99 to pick up the app in the mobile store. But so a lot of this increase in revenue is from the Minecraft marketplace.
Yeah, and it's funny that it's still competitive against games which are ostensibly free to play games like Fortnite, which obviously earn all of their money through stuff like microtransactions and cosmetic purchases and stuff like that, but are free to play on most platforms. It's really interesting to see that Minecraft is still getting higher player base than a lot of those games.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think a good part of that is also probably, well, like you said, it's all the positive, it's all the development, it's all the, the constantly updating, but it's also the low price point. Like it's a even though it's not free, sub $10 for Minecraft is still real good.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Definitely.
Consider the hours of content that you can put into it. The Nation Crafted article that Cosmic Dancer sent in is a really, really interesting read. It's about I'm assuming it's a guy. He goes by Frederick, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say with online names and stuff like that. It's a nation that has been crafted in Minecraft. Now, it's worth noting that it's a creative world. It's not a survival world. And they've used MC Edit and World Painter for organic stuff, and then MC Edit for like buildings and stuff that are on angles or complex shapes. But it is massive. 6 or 8 years, I think, since the creator was in high school, and has just continued on into his 20s or her 20s. And man, like it's one of those things that it's not overly complicated, but it still looks modern and great and still has that Minecraft aesthetic, if that makes any sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's still got a foundation in like grid-based things, blocky things, and it's not like there's a texture pack, a resource pack being used here, but it's not a heavy one. And it suits the build style particularly well. And a lot of the images you'll find here, there's some great like terraforming and forests and stuff going on. It all looks very realistic as far as like the landscape around this city that's in the header image of the article goes. But then the city itself just looks so like typical of the kind of cities that you would find in the real world. This kind of like waterfront thing with skyscrapers, and there's infrastructure going on here. There's a wind farm in the foreground. It's just fascinating. And yeah, I think if for a 6 to 8 year project, it's still very impressive. I wish I had the staying power to keep up a project for 6 to 8 years. we will see if I ever reach that particular standard, but no doubt this builder will have continued their build and been going for a decade or more by that point.
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to mess around with World Painter, but it's the kind of thing that I would love to be able to incorporate into some of the stuff I do in Minecraft, because I do find that the default Minecraft mountains and landscapes and stuff can be kind of derpy sometimes, and having that mountain range in the background that looks a little bit more realistic, I think goes a long way, especially with trees and things like that. Like being able to paint in trees and forests that like would just be tedious and stuff to do. I mean, like we all can't be Whip, and build a mountain in survival. But something that kind of dawned on me, I was looking over the buildings and realizing how colorful everything was. And granted, he's got like the shaders in the screenshots do make things pop a little bit, but it's like, no, these are default Minecraft blocks. This is not rocket science. It's not a huge custom texture pack. And then it dawned on me that it's because everything is so colorful.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that make Minecraft builds look very quote unquote Minecraft to me in a bad way, like in the very, oh gosh, everybody builds like that kind of way, is when people get over stoned, like they get over bricked and gray blocked, and everything is meant to be a skyscraper, that they're all gray and metal and glass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of color in this. And in the article, he goes in to say, like, when I first started this, there was no concrete. So I was using wool to get some color into the buildings.
Yeah.
And it makes it look like Pixar designed a city in Minecraft. Like it's just a little bit cartoony, not really cartoony, but just a little bit in terms of the flavor.
Yeah.
That you kind of get a little bit of color in some of the skyscrapers. Like there's a green building, there's a blue one. There's wool that's used in signage, all that kind of stuff. And it really, really works. I think it's fantastic.
There's a range of architectural styles going on as well. You've got some stuff that looks very brutalist. There's some stuff that looks a little bit more Art Deco. There's so much variety that you can put into that. And just looking at like cities around us, you can quite easily see like the history of something through what the architecture is and where things have been built over time. And I feel like that, Frederick has really kind of simulated that very well in this build. It's fascinating. I could look around this for hours. Oh man,
I didn't check, but I want the world download when it's available. I don't think it's done, so I don't think it's available. But I want to go and see if there's a YouTube video or something about it. The football stadium is bananas.
I'm sure it is. It's
got a retractable roof structure. Like it's the geometry is out of this world. Like really, really cool looking. And this kind of scale that's difficult to accomplish because the roads are only like 5 or 6 blocks wide. Like it's not like they're ginormous, so it's still player scale for the most part. But anyway, I thought it was a fun news clip worth.
Yeah, definitely. Check that out in this week's show notes on thespawnchunks.com. But I think we should probably get into the snapshot before we get away from that here. So let's talk foxes, Joel.
Yeah, so you've had a chance to mess around with them briefly in the snapshot. I was busy last week, and I have not logged in, but I have watched a couple of YouTube videos. And the first thing that I want to note is that they're real derpy looking. They have the sheep eyeballs that kind of face in the opposite directions a little bit. I can't decide whether I like it or not.
It's funny because the eye texture wraps around the head. So if you're looking at them face on, then yes, the eyeballs are like looking in opposite directions, and they're right at the edge of the kind of flat plane of the face. But then if you look at them from an angle, then the eye actually wraps around as though the eyes are on the sides of their heads. And I think that's kind of the first Minecraft mob texture to do that, with the eye kind of wrapping around. And it's clearer on the fox model than it is on other models because, say, like a chicken, for example, the head texture is also white. And so they've just got these beady little eyes. But I think the foxes, it kind of makes them feel a little bit more realistic if you look at them from the side than if you do from the front. I noticed a lot of people on the Reddit had the same thing. They said they look like... It's kind of breaking the design tradition of only the farmyard animals have those slightly kind of wall-eyed look, and the other animals, the ones that are supposed to be like, natural either predators or just neutral mobs out in the wild, should have that face-forward kind of look. But I feel like it works for the foxes. For me, personally, it may be something that changes
I would be curious to see the pupils be 1 pixel over towards the nose,
Yeah.
but that could also, like you said, break when you look at it from an angle, and then they might look cross-eyed. So they might have gone with, like, it might have been the lesser of two evils.
Yes, it
But
could well be.
it's also neither here nor there, because I mean it's still very Minecrafty. It fits in the game. It's a simple model, but it still has a nice poofy tail and
Yes, I love how
skinny
big and bushy
legs.
the tail is. Having looked at the foxes in my garden and kind of like noticed them over the last year or so, there's some that have like skinnier tails. I'm not sure if it's like a male versus female thing or if it's just the age or like how well fed they've been or whatever, like that allows their tail to grow that big. But it's definitely in proportion with what I've seen of the foxes in this neighborhood. So yeah, it's a very very cool look to the whole model.
I don't remember the title of it, but one of my favorite paintings by Robert Bateman, who's a wildlife painter, is of a fox in the snow, and it's a beautiful, beautiful painting. And you see them and you immediately think fox, and I can only imagine how difficult it was to take a long, bushy and very pointy foxtail and put it into a box
Yeah.
in Minecraft. Like it's one of those things where like you would really have a hard time making it look bushy, like it's an interesting challenge, I think, design wise, but I think they pulled it off, and they also move around in a very cute way. They're pretty skittish. You can breed them with berries, I believe.
Yeah, berries from the berry bushes, the new Tiger edition, which makes sense. It's kind of a package thing with the Tiger update. I'm not certain quite how realistic that is. Obviously, the breeding mechanics themselves are a bit unrealistic, but I don't know how often foxes eat berries in the wild. I feel like they're probably obligate carnivores. So if they eat berries, then this seems like more of a fictional thing for these foxes to do than a simulation of real life. Speaking of foxes in the snow, by the way, before we get too far away from that, there are Arctic foxes as well as red foxes. So you get white fox models if they spawn in snowy tigers, which is really cool. And those have the natural camouflage in the snowy environment, which the red foxes don't. Because when I started up a creative world for the snapshot and flew into a tiger, I saw fox almost instantaneously. They stand out like fire, and it's really cool seeing them out there. But the white foxes might be a little bit rarer and a little bit more difficult to track down, especially if they continue to run away from players the way they currently do.
Yeah, and there's not much that you player can do with them. The foxes can pick up items. They have 2 item slots apparently, but they can only hold 1 item in their mouth at a time. They spawn with an item in their mouth, and I think it was an 8% chance, something like that. It's a low 8.5% chance, and the items that they'll spawn in with are eggs, emeralds, feathers, leather, rabbit hide, rabbit foot, wheat, and a cooked pork chop, which is odd. So right away, if you find a fox in the wild, there's an opportunity in early game that they might actually have something worthwhile. Like
if
leather.
if you can coax them into dropping it by giving it a food that's like higher up the hierarchy for the fox. If you feed it a berry, for example, then it's gonna potentially drop whatever it's got in its mouth before it eats it.
Yeah. Meat like chicken, berries, and eggs seem to be high up, and then other items that are non-edible, they'll prefer an edible item to whatever they have in their mouth. I don't know if there's a way to exploit that, because I know I watched foxes approach items on the ground, and it doesn't matter what the items are. If the fox has no item in their mouth, they will approach an item on the ground. It doesn't matter what it is. And then they prefer the food items. So I don't know yet if that's something that players can take advantage of and get a fox to, on purpose, drop a valuable item for the player to then pick up, and then pick up food items in a repetitive manner, like whether they will like go back and forth from one particular area to another.
You couldn't necessarily rely on it for them to farm emeralds, for example. Like if a fox has a chance to spawn with an emerald in its mouth, you might be able to get the occasional 1 or 2, but you're not going to be able to just respawn foxes to get an emerald farm on the go.
No, exactly. And I don't know what the spawning situations are for those. And they do have some habits, though. Like they'll jump and attack chickens, and they will nap under trees. So if you need to send a fox back to a specific block at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, you can put a tree nearby, and it will go and nap underneath it.
Yeah, they have to kind of nap in the shade, it seems like. And they are nocturnal, so they'll be more active at night than they will be in the day. So there could be potential for that, almost for them to be an animated version of a daylight sensor, almost. Like if you can put a pressure plate or something that they could walk over to on the way back to their shady spot, potentially. But then, that's something that you could probably just replace with a daylight detector anyway. So it's kind of, it's one of those things that's like it'd be fun in principle, and you can kind of see technical players exploiting it for the fun of it, but it won't necessarily be the most efficient way of doing anything. Obviously, like we're doing that thing we do where we kind of like pick apart like what are the technical uses for this thing, rather than like acknowledging the fact that this thing brings so much life to the world. The jumping animation that it does when it goes after chickens and stuff is freaking hilarious. It's so funny. I've seen so many pictures of people like spawning in a ton of foxes in a creative world and having them go after like 2 or 3 chickens. There's just this like foxes to blot out the sun kind of thing where they're all like diving inwards on these poor chickens. It's kind of hysterical. And foxes are quite nimble like that. And I keep going back to the ones that are in my garden, but I've taken videos of them playing, and there's like baby foxes and stuff that kind of run around, and they will do that kind of like jumping from side to side kind of thing. And they also, the napping thing in Minecraft is so cute, and exactly like the foxes that nap in my garden when there's like a sunbeam. Like they will just kind of happily sit there and snooze, and they curl up in exactly the same way. So these things are just cute. I don't know if I will end up encountering them all that much in terms of the day-to-day Minecraft gameplay I participate in, but it's so nice just like running across one of them, having a nap under a tree. It's just adorable to me.
I kind of wish there was a mechanic that would attract them to your builds. Like whether they would. I mean, obviously chickens will bring them in, but I wish there was a way for foxes to be a little bit more attracted to, say, like gardens or something. Because otherwise, you're not going to see them.
They will wander into villages.
Right.
That's actually a thing. So if your home is sort of nearby a village, I wonder how that's going to work in terms of people making custom villages and playing with the definition of what a village technically is. Like, we know that village behaviors are going to be different in 1.14, so we're going to have the necessity for beds to be around. Villages are probably going to have to contain more than just like a villager and a bunch of doors. It's going to have to be a bit more of a complex affair. But then if foxes are still attracted to areas like that, if the game counts it as a village for the purposes of, say, villager breeding, you might get foxes gathering around them almost in the same way that you get zombies gathered around large collections of villagers. And it's going to be interesting to see if you can either trick the fox AI that way, or just, hang around in a village for long enough and watch a fox kind of go through and effectively go through their bins. They become urban foxes, which is kind of neat.
What if a fox was attracted to the compost bin?
That could be another good idea. Yeah, I mean, my compost bin is very attractive to foxes because they like it there because compost is exothermic and it's warm. So it's one of those things that would add a dimension to them. But having said that, they already have a lot more dimension than, for example, polar bears, which have maybe 1 or 2 behaviors, but were kind of like. At the time, they were kind of blasted for not really adding a huge amount to the game. And I feel like foxes don't necessarily add a huge amount, but they've got so many little eccentricities and quirks and different behaviors that they feel a lot more complete than some of those older editions did. Same with parrots. Parrots, they fly around after you, they can sit on your shoulder, they make mob noises occasionally, but I feel like foxes still feel like they have a lot more depth to them than that.
Yeah, and I feel like there's this weird line where like we always ask for more of this kind of stuff, and I want to be very clear. I'm not complaining about the foxes. I think they're a perfectly great addition to the game, but I do find that that you have this really pretty thing in the game that runs away from you.
Yeah,
and same thing with the parrot. Like you've got this really cool thing in the parrot, and they are the most difficult things to move around the world.
Tricky to wrangle, but
so I'm just curious as to why. I guess same thing in real life. Like, if Mojang is doing the thing that they normally do, where polar bears don't drop anything because they're an endangered species and they don't want to encourage players to kill them. Foxes in the wild are going to be skittish and run away from you, and they don't want kids running out and trying to pet foxes. Like, I get why you can't tame them and stuff. I'm just wondering why there's not a little bit more control, so that, I guess, like a block, I kind of would hope that players would want to try to, quote unquote, decorate their builds with attracting wildlife, right?
Yeah.
and there doesn't seem to be a way to do that.
Well, if you breed two foxes together, the offspring trusts you. That's a known mechanic about this one. So I don't know if it then grows up and gets afraid of you once it's an adult, if the behavior is like specific to fox kits. But I think it may be the case that it tracks like, okay, this has been bred by the player. If a player is able to get close enough to these foxes with the berries that they breed with, then like that fox will then trust you. And it's not that it's going to follow you around like a tamed wolf will, but it's still going to like not run away from you when you encounter it in the wild. So if there is some way that maybe you can, capture a fox within a certain area, it's not just going to sit there outside of your house obediently, but it's still going to not run away when you're around. So there may be a way of kind of keeping the foxes nearby.
Do you think we're going to be seeing the release of 1.14 soon, now that the last of the Taiga announcement updates have been put in the snapshots?
I'm kind of hoping so. I'm sort of left wondering what's left, because they've got... obviously, they've still got to implement villager behavior sort of cycles and stuff in Java, but I feel like that's going to be the main thing on their plate now between now and the release of 1.14. So they haven't really rumored any more features. A lot of the stuff in this snapshot, the most recent snapshots, the functional blocks and everything did sort of come out of nowhere, but now we know more about their interactions with villagers. They make a lot of sense. And I can't think of a great deal else that they have left to add that they either mentioned at Minecon or, that makes logical sense for them to add and is missing from the next update. So I really feel like, especially with the Bedrock update, basically having all of the, pandas and snapshot and crossbows and stuff already, like it kind of makes sense that the next update for Bedrock and therefore the next update for Java, which contains all of this stuff, should be just around the corner.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get it soon. I am starting to feel the need for the update features to be in game. Like I really want to start incorporating them into the builds, because they're starting to feel very finished.
Call of the village.
Yeah, well, the village, the campfire foxes now, berry bushes. I now because I watched foxes harvest berry bushes, and so it looks like you could potentially use foxes to auto harvest berries, which would just be fun and cute and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just curious to start playing with this kind of thing. It's not like I'm bored with Minecraft. Jeez, I played Minecraft for like 12 hours this weekend. Like I'm perfectly happy doing some cool stuff in game and hanging out with the community. But I'm anxious to move forward. Not leave what we have behind, but I'm curious for the additions to finally be live, so that we can know what they are finally and move forward with them.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not going to be a situation like 1.13 where it gets delayed and delayed and delayed, because I worry for the community's kind of attention span when it comes to this stuff, and if it feels like it's just in a state of limbo where it's not going to come out and nobody really knows when, then that's when you start to lose people a little bit. So hopefully we'll cross our fingers for that one. So how about we move on to chunk mail? We have a couple of things to read through today, and how about you take the first one?
Sure. We've got a message from Logical Geek Boy. And he says, "Hi guys. Firstly, thank you so much for this amazing podcast." Why, thank you very much. "I listen to the show every week while out on my runs as I keep in shape." Now, there's somebody that did not sit on their butt and play 12 hours of Minecraft all weekend. Anyway, Pix mentioned wanting to know more about how mob spawning works at the technical level. Well, you might be interested in a new series I'm doing with Methods with a double Z from the SciCraft server. I think a lot of people would be familiar with the SciCraft server. It's called Dissecting Minecraft, and we'll be digging into all of the technical aspects of the game, including mob spawning algorithms in future episodes. This series is aimed at a non-technical or semi-technical player in the hopes of teaching everyone something they didn't know before. I'm not expecting you to read this out in the show. Well, too late. But if you want to give us a plug, I'd be more than happy to hear it. Well, congratulations. I think this kind of stuff is fantastic. Thanks so much for writing in and letting our listeners know, Logical Geek Boy, about a new resource, a new technical resource, because Jonny and I kind of split the divide of being builders and technical people, but as you know, we question our technical knowledge quite readily on the show.
Yeah.
So to have something we can point listeners to as a very in-depth or an in-depth knowledgeable series that's going to be aimed at the non-technical to semi-technical players is fantastic. So thanks so much.
Yeah, the first episode of Logical Geek Boy's Dissecting Minecraft series is already out on his channel. I'm pretty sure Methods is either mirroring the episodes from his perspective or is going to come up with some content of his own, but they're both Minecraft YouTubers in their own right. It's great. I watched the whole thing. It was about half-hour video of them just going through the basic redstone components is the first thing, because obviously in the later episodes in this series, they're going to get into stuff like how flying machines work and a lot more of the kind of ins and outs of both technical Minecraft, redstone stuff, and then presumably all of the mob spawning stuff that we know the Psycraft guys for exploiting to its fullest extent. And
for sure.
Yeah, Logical Geek Boy has been a member of the Minecraft community, the Hermitcraft community, for a decent time. He's got his own single player series and stuff as well. And this video was really well presented. I feel like, as somebody who makes Minecraft tutorial stuff pretty much constantly now, it's a good kind of companion to my survival guide series, because I'm showing everything from a survival perspective. And somebody in my comments recently kind of asked me to do an episode about the basic redstone components. Go and watch this instead, because I've already incorporated enough of the basic redstone components into my series kind of naturally as I go that it feels weird to go back and then explain everything from the basics of this is a piece of redstone wire and here is what it does. So this series would be a great companion to that. So I recommend keeping track of it. It looks like it's going to be really interesting.
And we'll have a link to their YouTube channel as well as the series in the show notes.
So next up, we have an email from Beck Phillips, who says, "Howdy, got a couple of questions for you guys. First, what are your guys' thoughts on foxes?" Well, I think we've given you basically all we can on that matter, but the next question you have is great, and it's going to lead into the main discussion for this week. Second, if you had a say in the matter, would you want Minecraft to move towards a more fantasy style or a more futuristic style? Really enjoying the spawn chunks, glad you're still going strong. P.S. Is there any way for us to get the theme song for the show? Well, it's worth noting here that our patrons who are at the Discord minor level and above get access to the theme song as one of their benefits. It's just an original composition by me, and it's available in MP3 form for anybody who wants it if you pledge at the Discord minor level or higher on our Patreon. So anyway, let's go back to that question. Discussion topics. Would you prefer to move Minecraft in a fantasy direction in future or a futuristic direction in future in terms of the development of the game? What do you think about this? This is an interesting one.
Well, as someone that's been researching and planning, a sci-fi-esque build on the Citadel, I immediately lean futuristic. I feel like I see an awful lot of fantasy stuff and castles. We all know that Minecraft tends to lend itself in that way. I don't necessarily think the game has to lean futuristic, like in terms of the
mechanics,
the themes,
the gameplay,
the gameplay, the mechanics, and the boots on the ground feel. I don't want to see naturally generated Minecraft cities or stuff like that. I want foxes and wildlife and mountains and exploration. I think that's one of the draws of Minecraft is that we all, well, not all, a lot of us live in metropolitan areas. So going into Minecraft is a really cool escape, right? That's part of the appeal. I wish that there were more futuristic building options. For example, having a metal block that's not just an iron block that doesn't look anything like an iron block, right? I would like to have some sort of metal or anything that you could then paint or craft into different colors. Imagine having brown metal trains, rusty metal boats, bright colored metal modern architecture. It would be also fun from an immersion standpoint if you're walking across a metal block that it made that kind of funny metal bong noise, as if you're walking on scaffolding or something like that. Yeah. In the sub-block kind of idea, you could also get into metal struts or metal supports. Again, not a lot of function. I mean, Minecraft still has Minecraft gravity, but if you're building a bridge, it would be kind of cool to be able to put that crisscross pattern of supports underneath it without having to build them out of 1 by 1 meter blocks.
Yeah, having an actual lattice style block like that. That's what I expected them to do with scaffolding a little bit more as well. Yes, me too. Which is kind of why I was disappointed that scaffolding was just like a frame rather than having the cross-shaped struts in it. The cross-shaped
structure, yeah. Because again, you could have used that for a number of things, not just futuristic builds, but things like steampunk or things like a Tudor house. Those kind of 19th century, 18th century styles could benefit from that as well. And I know I've mentioned it before on the show, but it's less of a futuristic thing and more of a modern thing. But I would love to be able to paint wood. It would go a long way to kind of creating some unique kind of like interiors. I know that there's the colored concrete blocks and stuff in the game, but they're very bright and they're very flat, which is great in some cases, but not so much in others. But I'd like to be able to see some new kinds of metals, being able to make different colors of metals. I'm drawing a blank on other kind of futuristic stuff, but for me, it's more about futuristic blocks and getting a little bit more material that the player could then imagine their own futuristic build. You know, if you want to build a space shuttle, it kind of takes you out of it when you have to build it out of wool, you know, to get it to look right.
And you're building it. The curves have to be made out of like quartz stairs, and then the quartz doesn't quite look like part of the concrete that's around it. And there's a few things that don't quite like mesh super well.
Yeah. No, I get that Minecraft doesn't want to get into curves or straight like wedge blocks and things like that. Like, I mean, that's what modded is for, if you really want to get into that little nitty gritty. But I think having, you know, some metal and some other, you know, materials might help in that realm. And to get outside of the blocks, you know, to return to what we're talking about with the foxes and the immersion, I think to push more towards the fantasy side of things, or even a little sci-fi, I'm quite happy with the direction that they take with things like the Phantom or Wither Skeletons. I like the idea of the mobs being outworldly, whether they're alien in nature or whether they're fantasy in nature. I think, you know, more fantasy creatures would be welcome. That would also increase the imagination, you know, of the player and stuff like that. And hashtag flying pigs, you know. I want some fun mobs like that.
Yeah, I think the problem with it is when you're starting a player with nothing in an open landscape, there is very little that says futuristic about that by default. Whereas we all have this vision of a fantasy or medieval thing being open countryside and like Lord of the Rings style sweeping expanses of mountains and swamp and that kind of thing. So Minecraft provides all of that by default when you log in. So I feel like that naturally lends itself to a fantasy world. For it to kind of have a futuristic setting, you would kind of have to spawn in a place that looked like the future, which ideally means that there are buildings and stuff around you already, or it looks like some kind of alien planet, where Minecraft right now really mimics the real world without using a texture pack that maybe makes the sky look like Mars and the grass look like Moonrock or something. It's going to be very difficult to portray a futuristic thing when you are starting from nothing and working your way up a tech tree. That said, I do like the idea of having a tech progression that starts out in medieval tech and moves you towards something approaching modern day. It's the kind of thing that you find in mod packs quite a lot, in stuff like SevTech Ages or even Sky Factory, where you start off with just being able to chop down trees and make wood, but then by the third or fourth age that you're building a computer to store all of your items in, and everything becomes digitized. And Sky Factory does that with the I think it's the Applied Energistics mod, or maybe Refined Storage, where you can just build a computer after you've gotten a few things working. But even then, you've gone through all of the medieval tech to get there. So it really depends what you want to do with endgame. Personally, I feel like the charm of Minecraft is still in working with pickaxes and swords and stuff like that, even if you're building in a modern style, which is something that you can do yourself basically any time. Obviously, it takes a lot, like you said, without any kind of curved surfaces being available in the game. In order to build something that looks modern, you often have to build really big. So the problem for me with modern and futuristic stuff appearing in Minecraft is not necessarily the lack of it being present in Minecraft already, because what's present is your imagination, and you can lend your imagination to those futuristic builds if you want to. The problem is then you're hamstrung, in survival at least, by your inability to build stuff that's particularly tall, or like that stuff doesn't get much easier. It remains to be seen whether scaffolding is really going to affect it that much when that's implemented in the next update, because I would love something that enabled me to build taller a lot easier. Had a hard enough time building my hot air balloon in the sky when we got around to that. So
yeah, I feel like there's something to be said too for, and I agree with you, the charm in Minecraft, and having those basic hand tools and things like that. Like I don't want a mining laser.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
I in a way, something like being able to put a beacon sideways, like it wouldn't give you any kind of advantage of mining. It could look like one though.
Yeah, exactly. Like what you're looking for is like an effect rather than
yeah, an
it actually
effect. Like just and then all it is like the beacon still does the exact same thing. It still affects your mining and still does the thing you want it to do. It's just that instead of pointing straight up into the sky into infinity, it only goes until it hits the next block, right?
Yeah.
So then you could control the length of it. That kind of little change could open up all kinds of really cool stuff. You can imagine you had a bunch of beacons facing left and right, and it looked like, even though you could walk right through it, it would look like a laser wall,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. I think could go a long way. You could things like updating glass or changing some textures of things. Like, I mean, we have animated textures in Minecraft with water and lava and fire. Like being able to take a glass texture and animate it or something like that and turn it into what looks like a force field, or like there are some things that you could do that I think would be kind of cool. I don't like the idea of futuristic stuff spilling into combat. Guns in Minecraft to me take it completely out of what it's meant to be.
No,
like
totally.
that to me is neither here nor there. Now remind me, I think it was Pixark where you had like a drill, like this really weird cartoon, like it was cartoony, oversized, like the drill bit was the size of your head.
Yes.
That could be kind of fun, like in a steampunky kind of way. Like maybe you have to power it with coal and it mines a little bit faster than a pickaxe, but not as fast as a beacon. And it's like there's stuff in the middle that I think would be kind of cool because that's still a tool. It's not a weapon.
Yeah, and the game is like it's balanced around the current tech tree, and
Yeah.
it's very difficult when you start introducing more powerful weapons because then you have to introduce more powerful enemies, which gives you the problem of like you have to gate the player so that they don't come across those until they've reached the point in the tech tree where they can take something more powerful on. So there's no point in giving you a laser gun when you're still swinging a diamond sword at zombies, because just being able to incinerate everything from a distance doesn't really lend itself to a feeling of challenge anymore.
No. So when I think new items and new handheld things for a more futuristic lean, I think more tools than I do weapons.
Yeah. And I wouldn't mind a more futuristic approach when it came to building. Like I'm with you. I think it's kind of fun to have stuff like factory blocks that always get added into mod packs where building is a focus, the things that make the world feel a little bit more kind of industrial and modern. But a lot of the time, those can still be achieved with a simple resource pack if you're okay sacrificing some of the blocks that you don't use particularly often. It really depends on your approach, but so much of Minecraft is rooted in what it looks like in terms of like how you perceive the world around you, and that's something that you can easily kind of change up with a resource pack. There aren't all that many sci-fi style resource packs out there, which I think is a bit of a gap in the market for anybody who wants to get into texture pack making in particular, because when I look around for stuff in Minecraft, I can very easily find packs like Conquest, which favor medieval builders even more heavily than the existing texture pack does, but it is rare that you find a very popular pack that gets used for modern stuff. So it would be interesting to see if there are any recommendations out there for that.
I have one. It's called Odyssey.
Okay.
And it's available for Java in the beta version, but it is on Bedrock. I believe it's on the Minecraft Marketplace, which is why they discontinued the Java version. But it's really well, I should say it's really subtle. It's not something where it changes everything so far where you're just like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. It's pretty easy to sort out what's what. What I liked about it is that they changed the biomes into different planet themes. So like red grass versus purple plants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you played on a world with large biomes, the sky texture would change as you go from biome to biome. It's really, really cool. I threw it in on the Citadel just to kind of explore. Different things like the glass texture does look like a force field, and there are some really fun things. There are some things that are just like, well, that's arbitrary. Like they changed the potatoes to be weird, and that's fine. But I like the idea of having like some of the terracotta blocks, instead of being geometric patterns, they're things like having that red and yellow hash line, like the caution line, so that you can add that kind of stuff into builds, the kind of things that you would see watching the Aliens movies or Star Trek or Star Wars, or bay doors and things that have like lines around them for caution and big industrial type things. But check out Odyssey online. I think there was some other ones I looked at, but they were very, very non-Minecrafty. Like Odyssey was the closest thing that I found. And what was that map that you played with Zloy? That was very sci-fi. Opposite World. That had a fun sci-fi look to it, where you're walking through what still felt like Minecraft, and you're looking at this yellow. It's a bright yellow block, but it had like rivets in the corners, and it was just enough to be like, okay, that's not made of wool, right? Yeah. Like that's made of something solid. I don't need to know exactly what, but it just has that sort of manufactured feel to it. And I think that would be a good one to look at as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, as always, it would be great to hear what the folks at home think about this particular discussion. Do you guys feel like Minecraft could move in a more futuristic direction? Do you like it staying rooted in a fantasy world? And where do you think the middle ground could be found in that? I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. As always, I'm sure we'll be having a discussion about that in the Discord as well. But I think for this show, that is going to be all from us for this week. You can find out more information about the show and links to some of the stuff we talked about at thespawnchunks.com. The music for the show is composed by me, and The Spawn Chunks is proud to be a listener-supported podcast. If you get value out of the show, consider putting some value back in by joining our Patreon community at patreon.com/thespawnchunks, where pledging at any level will get you an invite to our patrons-only Discord chat and get us closer to our quarterly Patreon hangout goal. Currently, we are up 8 patrons from last week at 61, and we keep joking about the fact that we're going to be like at a full stack of patrons by the end of the month. I think it might be this week. I think we might actually get a few more people on board this week, and if we could, that would be absolutely fantastic. It's only, $1 minimum to support the show, and it's $1 per show, but it would be fantastic to reach that milestone. Feels like a very Minecrafty number to reach, and we'd be very proud to do that.
And I want to give a shout out to all of the existing patrons in the Discord. Nothing but warm welcomes and shout outs to all the new folks this week. And everybody seems to be really enjoying their first moments on the Discord server, which is just, it's heartwarming to see. I really enjoy the community. I can't say that enough. So thanks so much to everybody. Spreading the word is the easiest and cheapest way to support the show. Just tell your friends. You can find us on The Spawn Chunks on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also do things like recommend to your friends when you're chatting with them on Discord while you're playing Minecraft. Or, if you see someone in person, you're going to school with somebody, just poke them in the arm and say, hey, this is a cool podcast. You should probably listen to it. You can email the show and let us know what your thoughts on what we talked about today at thespawnchunks@gmail.com. And you can subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform like iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and Spotify. The RSS feed is on thespawnchunks.com, and the patron-only RSS feed is on the Patreon page, and that is the only place that you can listen to the render distance, the extended version of the podcast.
My name is Pixel Riffs, and you can find most of what I do at youtube.com/pixelriffs, where I attempt to make sense of this crazy and wonderful game in a series called The Minecraft Survival Guide. I'm also the voice for the unofficial Hermitcraft recap, which you can find through a quick YouTube search, and I stream 3 days a week on Twitch, where I play a few other games and dip into Minecraft on the weekends. Aside from that, I'm at Pixel Riffs on both Twitter and Instagram. Joel, where can people find you online?
Everything that I am doing online is at joelduggan.com. That includes links to social media, my portfolio, the art stuff that I do, as well as podcasts like the Citadel Cafe, where I talk about sci-fi and geeky entertainment, and Comics Coast to Coast, where when we can get a guest, we interview comic creators, illustrators, and animators. You can follow me on YouTube and Twitch with just my name. Head on over to Twitch. That's what I've been doing mostly lately and having a lot of fun over there. But keep your eye on YouTube, because I have some Vastin-related videos where I'm building a ginormous tree. And so people that are interested in the behind-the-scenes planning that go into that, there's some Photoshop and some pixel art and some concept painting. So some of it is Minecraft content and some of it is a mix. But that's at youtube.com/JoelDuggan.
Thanks for visiting the Spawn Chunks. The world outside is infinite. Hide your chickens!